The Mafia series has to be one of the most unique franchises in all of gaming, and since Mafia the Old Country releases this month, I wanted to take a look back at probably the most unique game in the series. The main trilogy of games span 3 different console generations, set in 3 completely different decades and offers 3 completely different types of game. The first Mafia was released back in 2002 on the PC, PS2 and original Xbox, and told the story of Tommy Angelo, a cab driver turned Mafia member during the 1930s. It was a unique game at the time as it offered an alternative to games like GTA and Driver, as it was set so far back in the past. I don't remember much about it from back then, as I mostly spent my time in the free roam mode, but still, looking back, the setting and story really set it apart from similar games in the genre. It would be 8 years until we'd get a sequel, but it was definitely worth the wait, as in 2010 we got Mafia 2, easily one of my favourite games of that generation. This time around, the game was set during the late 40s, early 50s, as you played as Vito Scaletta, an Italian immigrant back home after serving in World War II, working his way to the top of the Falcone family in Empire Bay. The thing that really set Mafia 2 apart was just how good the story was, but also just how detailed the world was as well. It truly is an absolute classic, and I can't recommend it enough to people who haven't played it. That brings us to the final game in the trilogy, Mafia 3. It was released in 2016 and saw you take the role of Lincoln Clay, a Vietnam vet out to take revenge on the Italian mob for murdering his family. Set in the fictional city of New Bordeaux, based on New Orleans in the late 60s. And that is the game I'll be speaking about today. Yeah, sure, it would have been easy to talk about Mafia 2 and how great it is, but I think Mafia 3 is the more intriguing game in the series, because I'm still unsure if I actually love it or hate it. For all its positives, like its great story, amazing soundtrack and great gameplay, it has some big downsides, and that's what I'll be talking about today, because even though Mafia 3 was okay, it could have been perfect. So yeah, today I'm looking at Mafia 3, probably the most interesting game in the Mafia series. It took some big risks, some of them paid off, some of them didn't, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to keep this intro short to get straight into the game, but please keep supporting the channel. The support on the last video was amazing, so thank you so much. But yeah, please, if you can, subscribe, like and comment down below. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let's get straight into Mafia 3. Like I said in the intro, Mafia 2 was one of my favourite games of that generation. I, like many others, absolutely love the story, the characters, the world. It truly felt like we had an alternative to GTA that wasn't just trying to be another clone. It had a sort of semi-open world, which you were free to explore at any time, but the game was still very linear, with the open world parts just being there to get you from mission to mission. There's not much to do in them, other than explore the world of Vito. We'd have to wait a whole 5 years before we got to see anything about a new Mafia game. In August of 2015, we got the Mafia 3 reveal trailer. It didn't show much, but it definitely set the tone of the game perfectly, showing the main character Lincoln Clay taking revenge on a mob member, taking him out to the bayou to feed him to the alligators, whilst House of the Rising Sun by the Animals plays in the background. I can't even tell you how many times I watched this repeatedly back then. It got me hyped for the game straight away, and I could not wait to play it. I still consider it one of the best reveal trailers of all time, and over the next year we'd get gameplay previews, more story content, and everything I saw made me more excited for the game. And a little over a year later, Mafia 3 would release in October of 2016. It would also release very close to Watch Dogs 2, another open world sequel, so it definitely had some strong competition. I still can't believe it's been almost 9 whole years since I played it for the first time, as I still have very vivid memories of playing it when it first released. I think that's just because I was so damn excited to have a Mafia game to play after years of waiting. Was it worth the wait? Well, that's the thing. To call it a disappointment would be a bit harsh, but to say it was just as good as Mafia 2 would be a lie. It's somewhere in between, and in this video I'm going to try and explain why. I wanted to start off by talking about the things Mafia 3 gets absolutely perfect, and that's its setting, story, world, and in some parts its gameplay. Let's start with the story. As I've already mentioned, the game is set in the late 1960s in the city of New Bordeaux, which is heavily based on New Orleans. You play as Lincoln Clay, who grew up as an orphan, brought up by the leader of the black mob, Sammy, who takes him in as one of his own. Serving a few years in Vietnam, Lincoln comes back to help Sammy and his son Ellis with a big job to help pay off a debt owed to Sal Marcano, the game's main antagonist. Once the big job is done, everyone goes back to Sammy's bar to celebrate, and this is where Sal and his son Georgie kill everyone, including Lincoln. But Lincoln just about survives, and now has a plan to not only take out Sal, but destroy his whole criminal enterprise, with the help of some other gang leaders, one of which being Vito Scaletta, the main protagonist from Mafia 2. The way the story is told is really unique. It's almost set up as a Netflix crime documentary, where you see the detectives and characters from the story being interviewed about the events that take place in the game. I think these interviews take place way further in the future as well. Seems sometime in the early 2000s. Just goes to show how much of an impact Lincoln Clay's actions have on the city as a whole. I love this concept. It builds Lincoln up as some sort of urban legend, as you see a character called Jonathan Maguire tell you the events of the game and also the aftermath of each action you take, and the lasting effects it has on the Marcano family you're trying to take down.
This was different. Even then, even before I knew who killed him, I knew that Richie had been put on display. Lincoln was trained in psychological warfare by the CIA. He wanted to terrify the mob, wanted them to know he was going to kill every last one of them, and that none of them would be able to stop him.
If you're looking at these cutscenes thinking that Lincoln looks familiar, that's because his voice actor, Alex Hernandez, recently played the main protagonist in Mind's Eye, a game I have no intention of ever playing. The world and setting are also massive positives. Set in the late 60s, the game doesn't shy away from racial issues that would have been present back then, where there is still clear segregation going on, so much as having certain stores you are not allowed to enter due to Lincoln being black. Remember a few years ago where there was a conspiracy that the cops in GTA 5 were racist, depending on how they reacted to either Michael or Franklin? Well, in this game, that's an actual mechanic, as the speed at which police respond to a crime depends on which part of the map you're in. If you're in a rich white neighbourhood, the police will be there almost instantly, whereas if you're in a poor black neighbourhood, the police barely show up to the crimes happening.
If any of y'all got the time, we got a call about a homicide in the Hollow. Dispatch out.
It's other small details like this that just show how much time and effort went into making Hangar 13's depiction of the 1960s America as real as possible, not just through the cutscenes but also the open world you're surrounded by. Speaking of the 1960s setting, the soundtrack is absolutely outstanding. It's definitely one of the best licensed soundtracks I've ever heard in a game. 90% of the time when I jumped in a car, I would instantly recognise the song playing. Even the main menu title screen has Jimi Hendrix all along the watchtower playing every time you start up the game, which just sets the mood instantly, getting you ready to drive around the streets of New Bordeaux in a muscle car, causing absolute chaos everywhere. I've said this before, but talking about licensed music on YouTube is quite hard, but let's just say Mafia 3 has a best of 1960s vibe to it, with songs from artists such as the Rolling Stones, Elvis, Aretha Franklin and Sam and Dave. The music just fits the mood of the game perfectly. The gameplay also has some positives, although it's not perfect, but I did enjoy most parts of it. Driving feels heavy, which suits the cars in this era. They're all quite heavy and bulky, so the fact that they feel like they have a lot of weight to them makes sense. Speaking of the cars, a few months after the game's release, they added car customization as free DLC. It's nothing special really, the options are pretty basic, but it still gives you a bit more to do with your money, and it's good to be able to customize Lincoln's car however you want. As for the combat, it's okay, the shooting feels responsive, the stealth aspects aren't bad, but it does seem like you get spotted the second you fire a shot, even if your gun has a silencer. So it means if you want to be stealthy, you'll be doing a lot of whistle and have that you bastard, and whistle and have that you bastard, whistle and have that you bastard. It also seems the marking of enemies on the minimap or Lincoln's listening ability to see enemies is really inconsistent, as I would completely miss an enemy in the next room because they just weren't highlighted, completely ruining my stealth approach. Also the crosshairs are kind of annoying. I was playing this game on the TV in my living room and I could not for the life of me see the crosshair on the screen, so I just tried to aim in the middle of the screen and hope for the best. Overall, Mafia 3 has a lot of positives and seems to be a decent game. Its setting, story and even just the whole vibe overall feel great and offer a very unique experience. As you can see, we've still got quite a bit of the video to go, so it's time to see what Mafia 3 got wrong. So far, everything I've said has been pretty positive, and Mafia 3 seems like a great game, but there's one thing that lets it down massively, and that's its missions, or lack thereof. You see, the first couple of hours of the game aren't that bad. There's a few cutscenes, a few missions that set up the story perfectly, up until the betrayal by Sal Marcano, and even a little after that, the game is fun to play. You set up your gang with the 3 lieutenants, helping you out to take over the city by taking over different districts. So how do you take over each district? Well, you have to take out the sub-bosses who control that district, by taking out 2 of their criminal enterprises, whether that be drugs, prostitution or protection rackets. With each one comes the head of the racket who answers to the sub-boss who you have to take out. You do this by doing the same 3 things over and over and over again. It's either go here, kill this person, go here, destroy this, or go here and steal that. These mini little objectives you get take up a large chunk of the game and are essentially what you'll be doing for 90% of the time. You know, when you've completed a game like GTA's story, you just go around doing all the side activities to 100% it. Maybe you listen to some music or watch a YouTube video in the background, not really paying attention to what you're doing because it's just a bunch of mundane tasks. Well, that's Mafia 3's core gameplay loop. The best way to explain it is if GTA 5 was a nice pasta dish, these extra activities are like a nice bit of garlic bread on the side, whereas Mafia 3 is just the garlic bread, and it's not even garlic bread, it's just a loaf of Kingsmill 50/50. What I mean by that is rather than these missions being a little something on top for you to do at the end of the game, they're the main event and end up becoming quite boring quite fast. I just realised I used a pasta analogy while talking about a Mafia game. That wasn't even intentional, that was just a nice little accident. The reason this is a massive problem is because it quite quickly takes you out of the whole experience. You just end up completely switching off from the world and its story, because everything you're doing revolves around killing the same boring NPCs in the same boring places. The best comparison I can make is with Red Dead 2. Now I know it's really not fair comparing these two games, but I am just comparing them on a similar mission and how they're set up. In both games there's a mission where you have to take out people making moonshine in the swamp. Red Dead's mission starts with a cutscene as the sheriff needs help taking out the moonshine makers. What follows is a journey into the swamp with some of the gang and deputies, filled with dialogue giving you more information about the characters, developing them and their importance to the story. Once it's complete, another cutscene follows showing how the law in this town is quite corrupt and easy to manipulate, helping to progress the story. This is just one random mission in Red Dead 2, and like most of its story missions and even side missions, it's always doing something to build the plot or the characters. In Mafia 3's Moonshine mission, you open the map, place a marker, drive to the swamp by yourself, destroy everything that's there, then drive back. No story, no dialogue, no cutscene, nothing.
Oh, you get nothing!
You see what I mean? There's just nothing here, adding to what is a great base for a story. All the characters have interesting backstories, especially the lieutenants who work with Lincoln, but they are rarely included in any of the missions, and are just there near the beginning or end of each district you take over. It all just feels quite hollow, which is also the name of the first district you take over. That's a bit ironic. As the title says, Mafia 3 could have been perfect, but sadly it's let down by how you progress through the game. A similar thing happened in the Far Cry series. Far Cry 3 was a great game, it had a great world to explore with a shit ton of side activities to do, but you could progress through the story without even touching them. It just meant that you were missing out on weapon upgrades and the potential to level up and unlock perks to make the game easier, so it gave them a bit of purpose. Then you have Far Cry 5, which again has a great map with a shit ton of side activities, but the problem is a lot of these side activities are now tied into the game's progression, very similar to Mafia 3. This just means that when you get to about the halfway point, you kinda don't want to play it anymore. The only reason I carried on playing was because I wanted to see how the story ended, and not because I was enjoying the gameplay experience. I knew every time I took out one of these sub-bosses, what was going to follow was another hour's worth of boring objectives, which is a shame because when it wants to, the game has some fun missions, which are always reserved for taking out one of the bosses of each district. Like very early on in the game, when you have to take one out in an abandoned, quite racist amusement park. I'm pretty sure most of us would have much preferred the game to have about 25 to 30 story missions than have the other filler missions and activities as optional extras to unlock upgrades and perks, a similar way to how Mafia 2 campaign worked. Maybe even have more missions where you're accompanied by the lieutenants like Vito telling stories about what happened after the events of Mafia 2, or Cassandra talking about how she became the leader of the Haitians after basically being a slave for the former leader, and Thomas Burke, whose son was killed by Sal Marcano in the same attack that took Lincoln's family away. That's the most frustrating thing for Mafia 3. It had so much potential when it came to its storytelling and characters, but it felt like all of it was wasted on boring filler missions to make the game seem longer. With the release of Mafia the Old Country, the developers at Hangar 13 have spoken out about the new direction of the game being a more linear experience like Mafia 1 and 2 compared to the open world of Mafia 3. Studio president Nick Baines saying in an interview with IGN, Mafia 3, while very good, embrace the open world, and the developers seem, in hindsight, to share players' opinions on this. It just didn't suit Mafia. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that, as I don't think the problem with Mafia 3 was its open world, but instead how the developers decided to use it. The game had a really compelling story, a really well put together setting, and had all the ingredients to be an all-time great. Thanks to the way the game makes you progress through the story, it's always going to fall behind the other two games, especially when 4 years after the release of Mafia 3, the developers remade the original game for modern consoles, and it was received very well, with it being very linear and next to no exploration in its open world, which the game has a whole map to explore, but it's only really ever used as a side mode, rather than integrated into the game. I just think the Mafia games can work as an open world experience, it just needs to be done in the right way. As I'm writing this video, Mafia the Old Country hasn't been released yet, but what I've seen from it so far seems to be quite positive, so maybe the developers made the right choice keeping the series as linear as possible. Just a shame that Mafia 3 had all the potential to be just as good as its predecessor, but was let down by a boring progression system and gameplay loop. If the developers really took their time with it, giving us unique and compelling missions, maybe Mafia 3 would have been perfect. But yeah, that is it for today. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supported the channel, especially with the last video. I was not expecting it to do that well, so thank you so much for all the support, all the likes, all the comments, and everyone who subscribed. Thank you so much. Hopefully this video gets as much love as that one did. But yeah, thank you. If you can, please support the channel in any way you can, whether that's subscribing, liking the video, commenting down below what you thought of Mafia 3, if you enjoyed it, if you hated it, and what you're thinking of Mafia the Old Country. It's out now, so maybe some of you have played it. I haven't played it yet, but yeah, just leave a comment down below, like the video, and please subscribe. I'm trying to hit the milestones. I'm trying to build a bit more momentum up on the channel now, because I was not expecting the last video to do that well. But it's given me the confidence and the motivation to keep making these videos as the best as I possibly can. So yeah, I'm already writing the script for the next video even before I started editing this video. So I'm trying to be in front of schedule now rather than behind schedule. So yeah, that'll be out very, very soon, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please support the channel in any way you can. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If I'm not uploading here, I'm uploading on my second channel, so keep an eye out over there as well. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.